Hey everyone, in this episode, we'll be taking a look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We're going to be exploring the plot, the characters, the animation, and compare it to other Spider-Man movies. So check out episode 102 on the Reel-ists podcast. Team Reel-ists, thank you for tuning into this episode. I'm Oscar.
And I'm Donnie.
And we have our producer Ruben here as well.
Hello.
He says hello. I don't know. I was gonna try to add to it, but then I was like, no, he didn't say anything but hello. So thank you for tuning into this episode. We are excited to talk about this one, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Was a highly anticipated film for me. Donnie, was it one of your highly anticipated?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Heck yeah, it was. I couldn't wait for this film.
Yes, it's one.
It had a lot of hype. They were saying the best animated film of 2018. Some outlets were saying the best film of 2018. I mean, this film had a lot of buzz right up until it was released. So
yeah, it got a lot of award attention, like for nominations and like legit chance of winning both the Golden Globe and the Academy Award. So it fits right into the timing, perfect timing, because we checked it out, and it's kind of like the start of the December movies, because now there's going to be a full wave of movies that we have to check out. So, but this one was the first runner-up.
yeah.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Keep in mind, this is going to be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the movie, what are you doing with your life? I don't know. Just kidding.
Are you even living?
But no, definitely check out the movie. Even if you listen to this episode before seeing the movie, definitely still check it out in theaters. It's worth watching.
Go to the theaters to watch it.
Yeah.
To see it on the big screen. It's really amazing.
Really, really amazing. So yeah, as always, Donnie, lead us off with what your quick thoughts for this movie.
Like I said, a lot of buzz leading up to the film, so I was pretty excited to see it. And sitting in the theater watching it, I was totally into it. I thought it was really, really well done. I thought visually it was beautiful. It was so just aesthetically pleasing to look at. A lot of just creative visuals happening. Very comic book reminiscent in some ways. So just in that aspect, it was great. The story itself, the plot was really interesting. We got to get introduced to Miles Morales, who I didn't know who he was. I don't read comics, so I didn't know him. But walking away from the film, I definitely feel like I know him. I think he's an amazing character. I think he's so relatable. I didn't know he was going to be only a middle school age. I guess from the trailer, I just assumed he was like high school age.
Yeah, that's kind of like default. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's in middle school. But even as a 26-year-old man, I felt like I could relate to him in so many ways. And I thought he was just a great, great character. Like, he was such a good character. I love the plot and just all the kind of obstacles they had to overcome. Not just Miles Morales, but all the other Spidey people that came into the story. And I thought it was just great.
All right, awesome. So for those that may not have been known about this movie, again, what are you doing with this? So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his reality and crosses path with his counterparts from other dimensions to stop a threat to all reality. And this movie was voice starring, I guess would be appropriate. Shameik Moore as Miles Morales, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry. And there was one more, John Mulaney. Sorry. And Nicolas Cage too also had a role in this movie.
And Oscar Isaac was in it.
Spoiler, that's at the end.
Sorry,
it was like a small tease at the end. But yes, so those are our star cast for this movie. Directed by many people. I thought it was one, and I saw the list. I was
three,
like, oh,
right?
Yeah. Bob Perchetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. So my thoughts for this movie was that this was Spider-Man at its finest. And I say that in the sense that it really was an awesome look at the Spider-Man universe. for comic book fans, we're familiar with this universe in the sense like we know Miles Morales, we know Gwen Stacy, we know Spider-Man Noir, we know like all these characters, and so to be able to have this opportunity to just see them fleshed out in animation, it was awesome. The animation itself was very comic book like in terms of just the style, and it worked. It wasn't too distracting. Like you would think, oh, they're gonna constantly make it, like with the little block text and stuff, but it wasn't used heavily. It was just used in an appropriate way that made sense to use.
It was used like sparingly, which made it more effective.
Right, exactly.
Because it wasn't just like throwing it at us the whole time.
Yes,
which was nice.
And it really delivered on a Miles Morales story, and I really enjoyed the fact that we were able to, I guess, like accept this idea, at least in the general public, of different Spider-Mans. And I don't know if it's just because there's been so many Spider-Man movies already released that maybe that's kind of more of a what we can accept, that maybe there's just more than one Spider-Man, maybe because we've seen 3 actors play him. I'm not sure if that was a part of like us being able to like enjoy that, because I'm just trying to imagine if they did that for like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if they just did, this is Iron Man from Earth 55. I don't know if that's gonna like flow with us as easily as well. So, but it works with Spider-Man, and it was just a great story, great music, great like humor, like it just an all around story. And I wouldn't even say the animation brings it to like a kid's level. It's still like you can go as an adult and really enjoy this movie for the story and the characters. Mm-hmm. The animation just gives them that flexibility to play with the story a little bit more so than a live action would, specifically with Spider-Ham, because Spider-Ham probably wouldn't work too well with real life. There might be like a creepy factor to that if they try to do like a real life Spider-Ham.
Yeah, or it'd have to be like just really CGI'd and
right. But it works in this animation style, so we can accept it. So, but definitely an awesome, awesome movie. So I do want to go ahead and start it off because it is being recognized as a possible Best Animated Feature movie. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a Best Animated Feature movie from the nominations, at least with the Golden Globes? We don't know the Academy Oscar nominations yet, but from the Golden Globes, what do you think, Donnie?
For sure, it should definitely be a nominee, without a question. I think it was done so well. I don't know that it'll win Best Animated Film.
Not
to say that it doesn't deserve to win. I just think that, you got Incredibles 2. It's like Disney,
Disney for being Disney. Yeah.
Disney's being Disney. You also had a really, really other well-done animated film, Isle of Dogs, which is one of our favorite films from the year.
Yes.
And I thought the animation in that was so good too. So that's like tough competition there. We had Wreck-It Ralph 2, another Disney film. So I think the pool of nominees is pretty there.
Do you change your should win, or is it should win? Yeah. Do you change your should win?
Oh,
we did do a should win.
We did a should win and what we think would win.
Yeah, we hadn't seen the movie, so we couldn't say.
I think at the moment I said Isle of Dogs should win.
Yeah.
Dang. I think as of right now, man, this is hard. See, because I think I personally liked Spider-Man overall better than Isle of Dogs. Like overall as an entire film, as with the storyline, the characters, the plot, everything, it was the better film. I still think dang, that's hard. I still really, really liked the animation in Isle of Dogs.
Which is fair, because, I mean, it's kind of tough. When you are saying the Best Animated Feature Film, you have to consider the style, too, and that should definitely be a big, like, consideration. What presented a unique animated movie, and Isle of Dogs and Spider-Verse both tested the waters. It wasn't like traditional 2D animation or traditional, computer animation. So
yeah,
I can understand.
I think they're going to be neck and neck, and I can't tell you an answer. I'm sorry, I just can't.
Can you imagine if they did when they did the awards? If they're like, in 5th place is Incredibles 2, and 4th place is,
that'd be crazy.
Because then you just like, okay, it didn't get picked.
What if they both won? Wasn't there a year?
What, 2 animated feature films?
Not 2 animated feature films, but like I vaguely remember something like one year in the Oscars, like 2 people won, Like it was a tie. Do you remember something vaguely like that? Ruben does. So yeah, I mean, what if they? That'd be cool. I'd be happy if Isle of Dogs and Spider-Man both won. That'd be awesome. But probably it's not gonna happen. I doubt. But that would be cool. So there's my answer. I want both of them to win. They both should win.
They both should and will.
And in my heart, they both will win.
All right, fair enough. I mean, it's tough because as a comic book fan, this is exactly what you'd want to see in a movie for comic books. How the general public receives it, to me personally, won't make my impact on how I feel about the movie. So that's kind of where it's tough. Where it seems like personally, I would say yes because I love comic books, and this delivered exactly all the notes of what you want in a comic book movie, even if it is animated. And there's many great animated comic book character movies that have been released by both Marvel and DC. So yeah, it's tough. I agree with you. I personally will give it to Spider-Man as my should win, but we'll see. We'll see if that's how the voters are feeling as well.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask, because you are not the comic book fan in terms of you're not well versed into comic books. How did it feel with all these introductions of these characters? Because that was probably a concern for both Marvel and DC to do these kinds of stories because they don't want to alienate the general audience. So what's your take on
I didn't feel alienated really. I felt like they introduced them all. I think one of the best parts of this film was they gave everybody a kind of introduction as each character was kind of introduced.
Yeah,
and that was that little kind of joke about, okay, let's start from the beginning, and then it kind of gives you these little flashpoints of kind of how they came to be.
The origin, yeah.
Yeah, everyone kind of got their own little mini origin story within this film, which I thought was so cool. So just really, really just fun, and I think definitely helps fill in some major blanks, like some major chunks if you aren't familiar with the characters, like I was not. I mean, so I thought that was great, and it makes me want to know them more, and it makes me want to continue watching.
So no questions in terms of so does that character have to be in this time period or what happened? Like nothing like that, right? Because it's a time travel also. Well, not time travel, but it's dimension traveling. So usually when it goes into sci-fi territory like that, it starts to lose general audience because they get to the point where it doesn't make sense or they're not sure what's going on, so they just tune out.
I love time travel and parallel dimensions and that whole kind of physics.
So this is right into your
I was into it, and I may even if things that I didn't click, or even if there were some things that I didn't get or understand, I was just like, okay, I don't get it, but I'll try to figure it out later because it did captivate me. Like that stuff in general captivates me in a film, sci-fi, kind of that whole bit. So I was into it. But maybe I'm not the best representation of a general audience because I do like those things.
Well, I mean, at least for someone that does not read comic books,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I have. I can't think of a question that I have right now, but there's for sure I walked away with like a couple of things that I know I had questions about, and maybe I just haven't thought to ask them yet or something, or try to seek the answers out.
Which is a possibility.
It's not like for sure. No, by no means did I leave the theater going, I know everything there is to know about these characters. No way.
Like the post credit scene character. Does that? I'm sure there's questions about that character because that was just like a one and done, and they didn't really.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, yeah, that's cool. That's good to hear. That's good. That means the movie successfully got you into this world and along for the ride. Awesome. For myself, being a comic book fan, this one just gave you all the Easter eggs and like just the enough that you are satisfied, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan. This gives you all that you need in a Spider-Man movie. If you played the Spider-Man game that's out right now, I think it's a nice compliment. So you see that movie and then you go play the game and you're just like living the Spider-Man life. It was really nice. I really do appreciate the thought that went into this movie with being accurate with Spider-Man and Miles Morales and all the little Easter egg nods, the Stan Lee cameo, the villains that were that are a variation of Spider-Man's villains like Green Goblin, Scorpion, Doc Ock. Who else was there? There was Prowler. There was a few. There was quite a few. So it was awesome to have that. But story-wise, some people are saying that this is the best Spider-Man story. Do you see yourself agreeing to that? Best Spider-Man story from all the movies that have been out for him.
I mean, I think it's the most fun. I think it's the most, like entertaining and
because the high standard for comic book fans, I'll say, maybe not the general audience, is Spider-Man 2. Like that is
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2. Yeah, anytime a new Spider-Man movie comes out,
they always kind of compare it to that one.
It goes straight to, is it better than Spider-Man 2?
And it's hard to say because it's such a. I mean, to say like, is it better? It's not like these are two completely different films, so it's kind of hard to say, oh, this one was better or was not as good as Spider-Man 2. I just think they're different, but I mean, I will say this one had. I mean, it was definitely. It was different than all the other ones, and it was obviously, but it was just
more than one Spider-Man is
and it was just. I mean, I just loved it. Like I sorry I don't have anything else. I don't have something more thought provoking to say about it. I just really liked it. Like it really drew me in. So, I mean, I definitely, and you know what? And I was a huge, Spider-Man 2 obviously was great. And I was a really big fan of the Andrew Garfield one, The Amazing Spider-Man. I was really super into those two. Hated that, who's the,
Tom Holland?
No. Emma Stone.
Oh.
Gwen. Wasn't
Stacy.
That Gwen Stacy?
Yes.
Yeah. I was like crushed when they've all seen this one by now.
Right.
I was crushed when she died in the end. But those two, I know a lot of people didn't care for those, but I really was into them. Like those, I think I appreciated the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans more so after I got so into the Andrew Garfield ones. Because I went back and watched the Tobey Maguire one. Because the Tobey Maguire ones, I was still pretty young and I wasn't in the comics at all, so it was just a movie. It was just like an action movie to me. The Amazing Spider-Man films got me interested in Spider-Man himself and the villains and kind of the superhero world.
Right.
So that when I went back and watched the first two Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, because I haven't seen the third one, but it made me appreciate those ones more.
Okay.
So anyways, I'm like, where's this train going to? I say all that to say, and then the Tom Holland ones are just, by that time I'm,
It's tough because the Tom Holland is just more connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right. So,
that the Homecoming kind of, it didn't get a chance to stand on its own because you see Tony Stark and you're just like,
he's so prevalent in that film. So
what's the bigger picture?
It doesn't feel like it's its own story. Exactly. It feels like it's Spider-Man and Iron Man movie, like a team up movie, like he doesn't have his own film,
right?
Yet.
Like it would be different with if Andrew Garfield was brought back and then Tony Stark comes in, because then you're like, all right, we've seen,
exactly.
So,
but it is. I think that they're all different. I think every time it gets rebooted and comes re-released or whatever, I feel like they obviously they're trying to do something a little different, but still stay true to the Spider-Man and the story and the origin. So I think they're all, I think they're all great,
and they have nice references to the movies, the older ones, in this Spider-Man Into the Verse.
Oh
Spider-Verse, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. That was
and there
nice.
was a lot of little Easter eggs within this one.
Yeah.
Huh?
So it was really nice to see that respect to those past movies.
Yeah, paying homage to the ones that came before.
I personally, it's tough because this Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie is a perfect story. But if we're talking about Spider-Man character, then I would say Spider-Man 2 still holds it at a good standard, because it was focused on the one character, whereas this one, you have a supporting character cast that, if Miles Morales is not clicking with you, then you have Spider-Gwen or you have Spider-Ham that you really can just be like, that's my favorite character. Mm-hmm. Whereas Spider-Man 2 was... you have Peter Parker and you follow the journey with him, that most likely at the end of it, you're just like, I like this Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, it's to say like overall, I would say Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you're saying as a best Spider-Man movie for the character, I would say it's Spider-Man 2.
Agreed. I absolutely agree with that.
And I think Andrew Garfield, it's just unfortunate that the studio wanted to meddle with it, that wanted to set up a lot of different things going on, so it wasn't its own complete story. Mm-hmm. and that really distracted from being able to appreciate from what we were getting from Andrew Garfield. Although it would have been nice if he did continue in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That would have been cool. But Tom Holland's great too. And,
right, exactly. Like he's been able to separate himself from Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
Speaking of Tom Holland, did you know that Timothée Chalamet auditioned for that role of Spider-Man?
For Spider-Man?
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Which I just found out watching his little like actors on actors thing with Emma Stone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So then I was trying to think of like seeing him in it.
Well, I mean, after seeing the movies he does, it would be hard to imagine now, but who knows? I
just thought it was interesting. That's a little FYI.
So, well, I do have to ask because there was a lot of characters. Did you have a favorite character out of all of them? Is it Miles Morales?
It's Miles Morales. They're all great. They're all really cool characters. I really like them all. But Miles Morales was like, he was the underdog. He was like, I was rooting for him. And there's a point there's a scene in the film where the Peter B. Parker was telling him, he was basically, because he was like, I want to come with you guys. I want to help. And he's like, you can't, you're going to stay behind. He's like, no, I can do this. And he's like, shoot a web right now. Disappear, make yourself invisible right now. You can't do it, can you? And you can just feel not the disappointment, but just like how crushed he must have felt in that moment, because like he has just this burning desire to go out and be this superhero and to do the right thing and to help people and to be a part of the cause, and he's kind of limited by his experience with his powers and what he can do, his abilities. So it just made me like, my heart broke for him in that moment, in that scene particularly. But just the whole entire movie, I was rooting for him. I just wanted him to, I knew he could do it. And, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. There was going to be obstacles for him to overcome. But I thought he was a great character. And he was so likable and just a good kid. And, he just like, there was nothing negative about his character, I don't feel. Yeah. I feel like he was a great, great character. And for a grown man to like look at this like little preteen and go, he was such a good character, like I think that says something.
I wonder if a preteen actor would be able to bring that to the screen.
If what?
A preteen, like an actual like live action.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Like, with animation, it's just the voice that you have to be concerned about.
Yeah, and I think what's it, Shameik Moore?
Yeah,
I think he was great. I didn't know it was him. Side note, I didn't know anybody that was in this film. I didn't know any of the voice actors. I had no idea. I knew I could look it up, but I didn't want to. I wasn't like dying to know that for some reason, because I didn't want that to affect how I viewed each character. So to see the end credits and to see all the voices listed was really like a treat for me, because I was like, oh my god, that was her. Oh my god, I had no idea.
Wow. How did that go? Like, not like, I feel like if you have to be surrounded by the movies, like when you hear movies a lot, you hear the names. So you did a good job ducking and dodging.
Yeah, I really did. I really was trying to.
No, I will say Miles Morales was an excellent character, but to me, it's still Peter Parker. I know they set him up a little bit differently in this movie.
Peter Parker or Peter B. Parker?
Well, I'm sorry, yeah, Peter B. Parker.
Okay.
Although I did like the Peter Parker that was there before.
Peter B. Parker just came off as, I said this to you before, but like kind of like if you've seen 8 Crazy Nights, the Adam Sandler animated Christmas film, like it kind of, Jake Johnson kind of, I guess the way he voiced him, it just kind of, that's how it came off to me at first. Like especially at first, not so much like towards the end, but like at first with the whole, when they're in the diner and he was like eating his burger and the fries, and I was just kind of like, okay. Like,
I mean,
this is Spider-Man?
Yeah.
But go ahead, sorry.
I will say it took a little bit for me to be okay with like an older Spider-Man who's not really into being a superhero anymore. But it was nice that he kind of got reminded as the story progressed. So I really did appreciate that, and I mean, I really liked his arc as well, and I think that it's just a little bit nicer to see, because we're so used to Spider-Man, that Peter Parker that we know, and a little bit more in his age of his prime, and he's still learning and he's still getting his powers, and he hasn't really conquered everything. He's still, only met like 2 bad guys and then gets rebooted. But with this one, I did like. I know it wasn't technically like the Peter Parker in the sense that we followed, but to me, it still was, despite being Peter B. Parker. I really liked it. I really liked that we got a different version of Spider-Man that we are familiar with. He was like your ground base. Like if you weren't connected with any other characters, at the very least, you could be like, oh, I know at least Spider-Man. I know that Spider-Man. Just like the posters and the trailers, you might have been, I don't know who all these characters are, but I know that one. So he was just like, that one that you automatically can be like, oh, I know, I'm familiar with that one. Okay, cool, I'm good. So, but yeah, he really had a very interesting arc. I know Miles Morales was the focus of the story, but I think he really had a nice developed one. Obviously, clearly second but in terms of like screen time, in terms of like the Spider-Mans, because Miles Morales was first, and then Peter B. Parker, and then they kind of like the other three were just kind of like more there. The other four, should I say, sorry, were just more of like they're there with a few lines, but no direct impact. Yeah. Although supposedly Spider-Gwen might be the love interest moving forward, so
that'd be cool.
She'll be back.
She was great. You know, it had a lot of great characters, and even the dad. I thought he was like a really good dad, and
I really liked the dad and uncle relationship. I am disappointed that they killed the uncle, because there was a lot of potential to go that route. In the comics, the uncle doesn't die immediately, and he usually sticks around, and he starts to. I mean, you know how they tried to showcase like how being bad isn't about being bad, it's about fighting for what you are not, you're not seeing fair or the injustice. It's kind of like that. Okay. So he's kind of giving Miles Morales that like you don't have to be good because you're not being treated fair, like those kind of like social issues. So it kind of, he's just like, dang, my dad's a cop and I want to be a good guy, but my uncle's making a great point about why should I when they don't even treat me fair, kind of all that kind of issues. So it's a nice balance in the comic book world for that. And this one they remove that just by taking away the uncle, so we won't get to see that develop. Yeah, which is fine. He's young. We don't. I guess we don't want to get negative influences on kids of like, hey, come to the bad side.
Yeah, listen to your bad uncle.
Right, listen to your uncle who's doing criminal stuff. But yeah, no, I really did like Peter P. Parker. I really liked him. And yeah, and I'll be fair. It's still riding off of me playing Spider-Man on the PS4 because I've been Peter Parker for the last 2 months, so it's like I'm still that character. I will say I was still sad when they killed that universe Spider-Man, because he was like at his prime. He was just like, it would have been awesome on the team. He would have been like a great team member, but it made sense for the story to move on that he died. But it was just, I was sad. I was like, oh, I wanted to see this. Can we get a prequel before it started
so we can get more,
with this Peter Parker and blonde hair? But yeah, so that was just, Spider-Ham was, funny. Spider-Noir, like they had very, simple jobs of helping out, but being more comic relief. And then Spider-Gwen was the small romantic interest. So hopefully they come back. I don't know if they would come back though. Would it be repetitive if they're like, oh no, another crisis that our worlds are colliding again?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of seemed like they might. I mean, it seemed like they're gonna stay in touch because at the very end they opened up the portal dimension, whatever you want to call it, and we're like, hey, and like, I don't know, did they pull him in or like, no, did they just ask him if he wanted to hang out or something like that? So I mean, I don't know. I guess they'd have to. Whatever the conflict is, hopefully doesn't tie back into like, or do the same thing like, oh, there's this portal open, or oh, our dimensions are running.
Well, it's kind of tough because then you're just like, oh, again. Like,
yeah,
really?
like hopefully it's something a different conflict, but they can all still in some way come together.
And there's plenty of Spider-Mans that have not been touched, so it'd be cool if we can get more Spider-Mans. Like we saw at the end, at the post-credit scene, that was a different version of Spider-Man. That's a Spider-Man in the future, who's actually a Latino character.
Right, you told me that.
Yeah, so we'll see if Oscar Isaac comes back, or if that was just like a small little...
Who knows?
I would hope he comes back.
I hope he does,
right.
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Was there any particular scenes that stood out for this movie? Or any of your, I guess, a highlight or...
Yeah, there was... I really liked this scene when... Miles and Peter B were captured by the Who was the lady with the like octopus?
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock. When they like she had them in like her lab or something. They broke free, and they were running from her, and then they were like shooting like webbing through the forest or these trees.
Yeah.
And Miles was starting to get the hang of it, and he's like, "There you go, shoot, release." And he was kind of like, it was kind of like a fight or flight moment for Miles, but it was a teaching moment for Peter. I thought it was really cool, and then that's when Gwen Stacy came in and introduced herself as who she was.
Yeah.
So that was probably like that was one of my favorite scenes. Really exciting, and then they had that joke about, oh my god, they stole the bagel, so that was really funny. Got a good laugh.
They had the computer.
Yeah, they took the computer, but then one of the scientists was like, they took the bagel. So that was a really standout scene for me. Yeah, I mean, this movie had a lot of them, but that was probably the one that comes to mind.
For me, it was when we went into the Spider Cave, I guess we can call it, because it had a lot of Spider-Man references and the gallery of costumes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I'm saying we should have a prequel for Spider-Man in this universe, because I want to see him in those costumes. And he even had the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 costume in there. I was like, that made the movie right there. That
you said that in the theater.
That was a solid stamp. I was like, it's in there. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just awesome. It was just like one of those like moments where it's more of an Easter egg, but the fact that you're seeing it and you like to feel like there was some story to that is like exciting. Of course, we're never going to see it, but it was just it's a nice moment to have that. And then you get introduced to the remaining three characters, to Penny Parker, to Spider-Nora, and then to Spider-Ham, which I will say I didn't like that they said all their intros at once, because I was just I was trying to listen to one, but then like the other one was talking, so I'm just visually it helped, but the like audio of it was, I feel like it should have been like one by one or something, but yeah, no, that was my favorite scene. It was awesome. And then Aunt May, she was cool. She was like a cool aunt.
Yeah, she was.
So yeah,
she was like, take it outside.
Exactly. So yeah, that was a really awesome scene. That's my favorite moment of it. But yeah, and like a lot of, as you said, a lot of things in that movie, a lot of humor, a lot of jokes were like on par. Well, not par. I'm sorry. We're perfect. So spot on. That's the word I was looking for. Spot on. All right. So
I think on par works. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be on par to what? On par to like a standard? I guess. I don't know.
We got you.
All right. Spot on was what I thought of. But with all that being said, Donnie, so what's your real score for this movie?
I'm going to give this movie a 4.5 out of 5 reels.
So it's streak ended. You saw that, Ruben?
What'd you say?
I said your streak ended with 5s.
I mean, they all can't be 5s. The only reason I'm not giving this a 5 is because I don't really have a clear frame of reference to like refer back to. I can't tell you how accurate it was to the comics, or what. Oh, I appreciate that they threw this in, or they left that out. Like I'm not like you do. You're watching this film through a different lens than I am.
Oh, like with the uncle's reveal,
right? And so there are certain things that I wouldn't get, or I wouldn't appreciate, simply because I just don't know. So but I think it was a great movie for my limited scope. Loved it. Loved the characters. The animation was beautiful. The score was great. The characters were great. Miles Morales was just such a cool character. And I just thought it was a great film. And I think everyone should go see it. Adults, kids. Yeah, I had to make sure. I'm like, wait, let me make sure can kids see it. Yeah, everyone should.
If it's animated, there should be some like way for a kid to see it.
I'm also giving it a 4.5 because I have a huge question that it's not getting answered. But his name is Miles Morales. Oh. I keep bringing this point up, and I get he's like, his dad is black, his mom is Hispanic, but if his last name is Morales, then that means that it must be his mom's last name, right?
Right.
So does he not have his dad's last name? Are they not married? Did she like be like, no, he's gonna have my last name? Like, I just want to know.
Well, in issue 52, just
and that's very possible because my dad has my grandmother's last name because my grandfather was in prison at the time, so we didn't receive my grandfather's last name. So I'm like, so I was even thinking of that, like, was there like when she was giving birth to him, were they like split up at the time, and she was like, you know what, F him, I'm gonna give him my last name, Morales. Like, I just want to know. So if any of you listeners has the answer and can share some information with me, please do it. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a reason in the comics. I never had bothersome as you did.
I know most people just accept it for what it is, but
I mean, are we talking about like from the publication side? Because Marvel probably did that to highlight the diversity. Yeah,
right. I get it. I mean, that part I get, but in a realistic standpoint, like in real life,
I'm sure.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's great. I love the name. It flows. It shows, Miles Morales. Like, I get he's a Latino. Like, it comes across, but I just,
So what you're saying is they made an error. They should have made the dad Latino and the mom black.
Just for that name's sake, it would have made sense if they flip flop. But I'm glad it's fine.
I hope
it was like watching a little piece of my childhood. Like, oh, Hispanic mom, black dad. That's me. Maybe that's why I love Miles Morales so much. Right. Hella biased over here.
But a 4.5 for the
4.5, almost a 5. But yeah, I'll say 4.5.
All right.
I don't want to just throw my 5s out there every week now.
Thought there was going to be one for every week now.
Go ahead.
What is your 5 for this week? Which one? Mine's is a 5 out of 5. Not surprised. It was truly a beautiful film for both Spider-Man fans, for comic book fans, for animated movie fans. It was just a solid movie that delivered on, bringing characters that you enjoy, and I definitely can see, Sony milking this and wanting to merchandise all these other characters, which is kind of a little bit difficult because at the same time they don't have the rights to the toys. It's still Disney that has the rights to the toys, but I can definitely see them wanting to more, at least the audience and the fans wanting these characters more. So like bring them back in the sequel, give me their merchandise, give me their 6-inch action figure. So I can see all that definitely being included. So yeah, I mean, but it just delivered on all the right notes. For me personally, first and foremost, I guess that's the biggest one. And I just feel like, yeah, you get a solid movie. You get a story that you introduce someone that gets their powers. They go through the journey of finding, who they want to be, especially at this young age. And there's just other subplots that just work well with the main plot. So all around nice delivery. The animation is very unique. You haven't seen it anywhere else with this animation style. And that was really nice. At first, it was a little hard. It took a while to get used to.
It did.
Especially in the beginning with the title credits when there was like glitching, I was just like, oh no.
It felt like we were in a 3D movie and we didn't have our 3D glasses
for a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
But then, your eyes adjust.
Right.
You realize obviously it's intentional and that's the style and that they're choosing.
I will say, for me personally, like I know the statement is that it's a comic book brought to life.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily care that they bring that comic book elements to the screen. Like I'm completely fine with them treating it as a different medium. Not to say that this one did it bad, but like if someone's going to bring a comic book movie or comic book to life, like adapt a comic book, you don't need to do what they did in this movie. It's not needed. It worked well for this movie, but I don't want like producers and studios to think that because it worked so well at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that now for every comic book movie we need to have those thought blocks and those like cut scenes. Like, yeah, I hope not. It worked well for this movie, but it's not.
Don't keep trying to milk
right.
it.
It's not the standard. It
worked for this. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
The other movie that did that was Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So that one again worked well for that individual movie, but it should not be the standard. But yeah, no, 5 out of 5 is going to be my score for this movie. So hopefully. Everyone that watched it is on par with Donnie and I's score, and they don't think it was a terrible, trashy movie.
I can't. Yeah.
Just don't talk to us because we don't.
Yeah. If you think this was a trashy movie, then you know what?
No, it's fair. We'll allow them to.
You better tell us why you think it's a trashy movie. I want to know. I want to know reasons.
You want the list. But no, whatever your opinions are for the movie, whatever things that you think worked well, what didn't work well. Leave us your thoughts anywhere possible, and especially on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are Team Reel-ists, Team REELists. Or you can leave a comment on YouTube. And hopefully you enjoyed this episode enough that you can review our podcast on iTunes. Yeah. Hopefully you've had a great sample from this episode and you want to listen to more. But that's going to be our coverage for this movie. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Until next time.
See you guys.
See ya.